Hello, and you're very, very welcome along to another trip to JMAC Podcast. I'm Sean Mann. Of course, the podcast brought to you by orgarech.com. 20% off the rest of January, so get your hands on the gear. And tonight, I'm joined by GA Statsman Matthew Hurley, former Antrim footballer Kevin McGurty, and welcoming back former Cross McGlen and Armagh footballer Johnny Murder back to the show. And tonight, we're talking last weekend's McKenna Cup final, the All-Ireland Cup final, and the other competitions that took place. So, really look forward to chatting to lads tonight. Johnny Murta, it's great to see you back on the show, my man.
Yeah, it's great. Looking forward to the new year, 2023. A lot of county football to get through, and can't wait to get at it, John.
Good stuff, my man. Good stuff. And I suppose, how's been the downtime since we were last talking to you, my man?
Oh, very quiet. Nice, you know me. Nice and relaxed January, and nice and fresh, keeping it real, you know. So.
Great stuff. And obviously news in recent weeks, you've become the new manager of Anna Mullen down in Monaghan there, so we look forward to the year ahead.
Yeah, looking forward to it's good to stay at the top table in Monaghan. It's very competitive. A lot of real good teams, and I'm definitely cutting my teeth well there the last few years. So I'm looking forward. A good young team coming through, and I'm excited about what the year ahead and possibly next year as well. So yeah, I couldn't ask for much more, John.
Good stuff. Well, the very, very best luck with it, Johnny, and no doubt it'll be a success for you. Mr. McGurty, how are you?
Not too bad after the weekend. Just on that, congratulations, Johnny, on your new job. Listen, I'm a wee bit tight at the minute for funds. So you lend a fiver from that, will you, buddy?
I couldn't afford it myself, Kev. If I wouldn't keep you in much drink now.
No, it wouldn't. You're 100% right. Living over here is a bit of a dear hole, you know what I mean? A fiver wouldn't get you a chocolate bar, never mind a pint. No, John, and after the weekend we've had, as I said, the last couple of weeks sort of whetted the appetite at the start of the competitions, the provincial ones, but especially yesterday, you can just feel the real buzz, and then coming into the Monday night before the start of the league. So looking forward actually to chatting about last weekend, because we have a lot to talk about. The GA, if they don't do anything right, they do it double wrong, don't they? Another cock up once again from them. So going to be really interesting to hear Johnny, Matthew and Mal later on's view on this, because I don't know where they go from here really on this. It's a sorry end, isn't it?
I thought you were going to touch on something else there for a second. And did you have a good weekend?
Quiet. You know, what's the famous Glasgow Celtic on Saturday, and played a bit of golf yesterday for the first time in a while. And I was about as good yesterday as Shane Laurie was out in Dubai, so it was absolutely horrible.
You're always fond of playing with the old balls. Matthew Hurley, how are you?
Yeah, all good, my man. Yeah, just watched the club at the weekend. I was about it. You know, drawn with sorrows, and another Liverpool poor results as well. So, yeah, brilliant weekend. Brilliant. Cork won the least on Friday night. So, we're looking forward to talking about the finals at the weekend, especially that Kilmacud debacle. What will happen in the next few days, we'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be dramatic, I'd say.
It absolutely will. And did you have a good weekend, my man?
Yeah, all good. Sure, watched Cork on Friday night, all good. Then came back crashing back down to earth with Liverpool drew against Chelsea on Saturday morning, and then watched a bit of the club action on Sunday, and I got brightened up again. So it was all good, at the weekend anyway. So looking forward to talking about the Allianz leagues at the weekend as well.
Yes, absolutely. And as you referenced there, Matthew, Cork obviously got a great win in the McGrath Cup final in Mayo. It was Cork 19 points, Limerick 2-7. I suppose, Matthew, Cork are on the rise, my man. James O'Donoghue was tipped just to win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, it's the one time now in the last few years where people are actually taking notice of us. We were saying all last year, really, we're building a new team now under John Cleary. A lot of young players coming into the panel, and we're building a team, building a defence. We have a goalkeeper that's there for a load of games in a row now, and Micheál Martin. We have a second goalkeeper. We have settled defence. So we have a load of second positions all over the field. Ian Maguire there as well. Colm O'Callaghan played well the other night. Stephen Sherlock. Brian Hurley scored 7 points, 5 from play as well, which is very encouraging. But I suppose, like, I know winning 3 games in the McGrath Cup is very good, and it's nice to win the McGrath Cup, nice to get a win over Kerry. But look, the main aim for Cork next week is to beat Meath in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Like, if we don't win that, all the good work in pre-season will go down the drain. So, yeah, good signs, John. But look, the league is the be-all and end-all for this team. If we could get maybe top 4, top 3 in Division 2, possibly an All-Ireland quarter-final then, I think we're on the right road to recover.
Absolutely, and well done on the win on Friday night, Matthew. It was great stuff. And I suppose, Mr. Michael McMullen from the Gaelic Life, it's great to see you. How are you?
Not too bad. That's a crack.
All is good. Did you have a good weekend?
I'm very good. It's always a good weekend when you're at a good few games. Unfortunately, a bit of a mixed bag. One for Derry and New Ulster success at Croke Park. So that's sport, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And you just text me. You have a bit of news for us. What is it?
Yeah. Well,
what's Kev done now?
Well, it's Glen have just made a statement to say they're buying time. They're looking to survey what they're going to do next. I got the word they were making in a statement, so I thought either they're going to appeal or not appeal, but it sounds as if they're just buying time. It's a big decision, and it's a decision I suppose I feel that they shouldn't have to make, and I feel it's a decision that shouldn't even get past Croke Park yesterday. As Johnny and Kevin both know, once the American Cup sits in front of the bus, you're the champions. So I think it would have been unfair if you use Conor Ferguson as an example. He makes an unbelievable save to win in All-Ireland, one that he potentially lost last year, and had 12 months to deal with that. And it would have been unfair if he loses it. Likewise, it's sort of unfair that Glen's biggest ever day has been tinged by something like this. And you know yourself, the Monday after All-Ireland is either magic or pain. So Kilmacud's has probably been tinged a bit, and Glen's has been left even tougher. The bottom line is that the 45 should have been retaken, I think. How many times have you saw a substitute being pulled for not having a bib on when they do a warm-up, or Mayor Fournier being chastised for being 5 metres out to reach out a water bottle? Now, I'm all on for clear sidelines. I think there's too much bullshit goes on in the line. But if there's a rule there to stop a Mayor Fournier or a water bottle, or a sub with a not wearing a bib, when it gets to a decision like that, now I do understand that it is hectic and a mistake can be made. Let's face it, it can be made, especially with Kilmacud Crooks and the situation they were in last year, losing the final. You would do the same thing yourself, it would be helter-skelter. But when Malachy Rourke or whoever the Glen person said to the fourth official, here lads, you have an extra man up there, we need to do something. At that stage, it should have been retaken. Because once the cup goes onto the bus, and like I saw 3 or 4 cases of rock shower in the bit of the bus when I was walking past it, and it was party time. That's Kilmacud's as All-Ireland. And it should never have got past that. It's just left a mess for everybody. A real mess. And a mess out of the biggest day ever in the club calendar. Rant over.
Yeah, we're going to dive into it.
No, Michael, rant on, brother.
Yeah.
Rant on. I mean, it's an absolute and utter joke what is now going on. We have the domination of Irish Twitter today with this, and nothing really should be played out in social media, but of course we have Brawley on, a guy that knows the rules inside out. I think it's Rule 644 that we're talking about here. You know, the way that we can go about this. Look, it's very, very easy. If the GAA make up these rules, that they endorse them publicly or through Congress where rules are made, then they're going to have to abide by the rules. But the problem here is, as you say, we've seen Kilmacud on Twitter today that they have had a big homecoming last night. You know, as far as the record books are concerned, they're All-Ireland Club champions of 2023. And what has gone on here is absolutely and utterly staggering for okay, we're an amateur organisation, but run by professional people at the very, very, very highest level. And, you know, what we must feel for is the players who have worked so hard for this. And let's remember, if we actually look at the freeze frame, this is 63 minutes and 37 seconds into the game. It has a minuscule effect on the outcome of the game, but yet rules have been broken. That's simple. It's quite simply there for all to see. Now, we must ask the question, what were the 8 officials doing who were on duty yesterday? That is 4 umpires, that is 2 linesmen, a 4th official especially, and the referee. And I'll also make this point, they were all mic'd up. They all should have known. The 4th official, after Malachy O'Rourke had told him, or the Glen official had told him, he should have been in the ear of the referee, who is mic'd up, who can listen and hear him. Now, we see when the ball goes out for a 45, the umpire walks 3 or 4 yards to the side to where the ball exactly went out. The sideline official comes on, because that's his job to do, to come there and point out where the 45 should be taken on the 45-yard line. If he's hearing something in his ear from the 4th official, he can stand over the Kilmacud boy and stop him from taking that. Or indeed, if there's a substitution at the time, because it's a hectic period, let's be honest, players coming on and off, he can stand over him and say, hold on, guy who's just been subbed off has not yet left the rectangle, the large rectangle of the pitch. He is not on the sideline. He's not walking away from the pitch. He's still on the confines of the pitch. None of this happened. This is absolutely bonkers. And we talk about, how mad this has got. I see Tyrone supporters today trying to get the 95 All-Ireland replayed now because of the Charlie Redmond issue. They'll try anything, them boys, like they steal the eyeballs out of your head and sell them back to you.
97 Ulster final as well.
Yeah, so here's my point on why I bring the 95 All-Ireland final up. There has been precedent set previously in all areas of the GA, whether that be school matches. We've seen the issue with Cooney, the referee, if you remember, from Galway, blowing up the All-Ireland semi-final early. I think it was the All-Ireland hurling semi-final with Offaly in it. That had to be replayed, and then I think Offaly eventually beat Clare. I think it was Offaly Clare that particular year. We have seen schools matches replayed because blown up early, or referee has made a mistake, or issues where one team has supposedly breached the rules. We are in a really, really difficult position. And again, at the centre of this, let's not forget, there's 2 sets of players who have trained maybe over 150 times this year. And they're the ones suffering. And I would hope, and people say this might be wrong, I would hope Glenn take on board what Malachy O'Rourke said yesterday. I think he was very, very humble in his after-match speech. And look, Glenn maybe had chances yesterday, which he didn't take. They were flagged back in them. I think for me, they do the better thing, which is they walk away from this year. That's what it is. It's done. A fine is issued to Kilmacud Crokes, and we move forward, because there's absolutely going to be no winner out of this between Kilmacud and Glen. There's going to be no winner out of it. And as I say, last point, but reinforcing it, the caveat to all this is the GAA at the very highest levels has once again failed club players.
Just to add on my points before I pass on is, I do understand there's an official can make a mistake. Let's say that there, and can happen. But when it's pointed out, and as you said, the amount of officials there, and there's camera there, I think it's too important not to be taken up. And if that 45 had been retaken and missed, we're not talking about this right now. We're talking about something else. And at the time when I was watching the game, now I saw some of these boys shooting into the WhatsApp that it didn't have a massive effect in the game. It probably didn't. But when Conor Glass's shot was saved and it's a 45, the first thing that probably, and only Danny Talon will be able to answer this himself, he is probably thinking, I'm going to lamp this thing in. Glass is there, Emmett Bradley's there, sure, somebody will get a hand on it. Then he looks up and he maybe sees Darragh as an extra person and thinks, shit, I'll go short. If that's the case, and if's a big word, but if that's the case in Danny Talon's mentality, then Darragh Mullen's presence on the square has impacted on the game, because it's made Danny Talon change his mind. And that's the same Darragh Mullen who caught a ball on the goal line at the end of the Cairns O'Rahilly's game. And I suppose, and as you two boys know from playing at that level of football and All-Ireland Club final day, if you have lost a final, you never forget it. So you're probably thinking, the boards went up for 3 minutes of stoppage time. All I can think about is Jerome Johnson, and all I can think about is Kilcoo and losing this. Let's get back in the line. And you're not even thinking about substitutions. Let's be fair about it to Kilmacud. And to go back to it, how unfair is it in Conor Ferris, the man who had a tough 12 months to make an unbelievable moment in his career, for us not to be talking about that and talking about something else, and if the referees or officials have made a mistake, it needed to be done before the final whistle. If there's anything can be learned from our conversation, that if this happens again next week, get it done before the cup is handed out, or get it done before the team is on the bus. It's just
one last point I want to make. Sorry, not to interrupt the guys again, or let Matt and Johnny in. The other thing that really struck me about this was, you're 100% right, Mal, here to put yourself in the hands of Danny Talon when he's taking that 45. Now, he's either going to knock that over the bar and hope for one last play, or he knows himself he's going to swing it in. Time is a big issue here. There was at least 6 or 7 substitutions, and a couple of them came very late on in the game. And the referee allowed no time for that at all. So the point I'm trying to make is, when Danny Talon's starting over that, his thought process might be, I'll knock this 45 straight over the black spot, and we'll go out and we'll see if we can get one last play. But the referee added no more time onto the game. And there was substitutions in added time. In fact, Kilmacud made 2, I believe, in that stage. Definitely Tom Fox come on for Mannion. So that's another talking point that, really gets into the psyche of a player when he's starting over the 45, deep in the game, we'll knock one over the bar and we'll see if we can, maybe steal the kick out and get a last score.
Just a small point on it, John. We went through a phase a few years ago where a substitute had to come to the sideline before the player could enter the pitch. And the last, probably after COVID, we've got away from that. It seems to be a free-for-all now in all games. I think that's something that needs to be introduced again. Are you going to hear the sound bites from Croke Park that we've learned our lesson and move on and all this here? I don't know. It's completely baffling for me that Glenn has been left in the position they've been left in, and sort of want to go your own. It's a wee bit embarrassing, I think, from HQ. Not only was the pitch embarrassing, but I think it's fair to say everything has just been embarrassing at the moment. And I think some of the heads in HQ should hold their head in shame, because it's a PR disaster. From any Gael all over the country, I think it's a bit of a shambles.
Strong words, lads. Strong words, but very true words. At the same time, we will touch on that game now in a few minutes, but just touching on to Saturday's action, lads, in the Dr. McKenna Cup final in the Athletic Grounds. It was Derry 3-11, Tyrone 1-5. Obviously, Mayo will be absolutely delighted with this win, and obviously we've seen Brian Dewar after the game very, very disappointed, and a lot of soul searching to be done. They don't have long to recuperate from that game. But Johnny Murtagh, Derry, it was a brilliant performance. Tyrone did not leave Omagh.
I tell you, I absolutely did not see this coming.
Same, yeah.
I thought it would have been helter-skelter. I thought it would have been very tight and competitive. I thought Derry might have struggled slightly, without the Glen lads. They're going to be some impact coming back in there. But Tyrone lads, I've just been, I don't know what to say about it. And I don't know. There's no way that playing Derry in the McKenna Cup final that they weren't going to go out and try and win it, I don't think. But they absolutely got annihilated. I think last season it was fair to say that they had issues of the hangover of a team holiday and all these things, but they don't have that issue this year. I do think they can regroup. Tyrone's a serious pick. They're some of the finest footballers in the country. But it just seems that something is not right in that camp yet again. And I know it's very early before there's a ball kicked in the National League. At the end of the day, it's a pre-season competition, but something just doesn't sit right with me at the moment. And And I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting few weeks, John.
I suppose kind of touching on to the game itself, Johnny, we did see a bit of a splurge from Tyrone, maybe the first 10-15 minutes of the second half, but after that they kind of went to the dogs, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. But Derry really did perform so well. Rory did look absolutely delighted after the game. I know it's early days yet, but Derry can definitely take a lot of confidence in that win.
Derry has been streets ahead in coaching and tactical play for last season. And it looks like they're carrying that through and even getting more stronger again this season. And they're definitely going the right way again. They don't look to be resting on the laurels from last year. So it looks like they're looking to push on. It's great to see Derry back at the top table. Amazing county when they're at it. They're disappeared for a long time and there's great Gaels down there. So they're going to take an awful lot of confidence out of this moving forward to the start of the National League. And they're going to look to get a big run together. Them boys look very, very hungry. They're very dangerous. They have the forwards. They have the tactical play. I hear Joe Watt, bring it on, John. I love to see it. It's great. It's refreshing.
I suppose, Johnny, who impressed you for Derry from Saturday night?
To be brutally honest, I think Rory. You can say what you want about the players, and the big score they put up, but this man is a mastermind. As Kevin says, he knows his onions, and he is, no matter what scenario that man's been put into, he just loves it. He loves the game. He loves coming up with something new, something fresh, and he seems to be a couple of steps ahead of everybody else at the minute. Sometimes they're punching against maybe a better team, but he's definitely building something big there for me, and it'd be interesting to hear Matt's thoughts on it, because I think he's bringing something massive to the table there with Derry, something massive.
I suppose, Johnny, from the Tyrone end of things, they definitely couldn't have been happy with the performance. I suppose, where did it all go wrong for them, I suppose?
Well, one thing about Tyrone, I thought in the first couple of games, and McShane looked sharp. He looked to be a bit of a bite about him again round the square. There seems to be, we were talking offline there, what Kev was saying about young Kavanagh, and what seems to be the situation there with McCannagon. They do look at Tyrone has a lot of guys with a lot of miles on the clock as well, John. So they're competitive enough around the middle. I think the defence is probably lacking big time, and they got ripped asunder by Derry. And listen, there's no doubt about it, to have the forward power, but I think they need serious work in defence, and they're going to have to get something a lot more settled in there, and because it's not going to be an easy start to the first few months of them if they can't get that under control.
Absolutely. I suppose, Matthew, what was your take on the Tyrone and Derry game Saturday night?
Yeah, very surprising results. I thought Tyrone would actually put it up much more to Derry than they did. They struggled in large parts of the game, Tyrone, and there seemed to be a good feeling around the camp before the game. But this result, I mentioned this, I think, on GA Fan TV last night. Tyrone are due to Derry if all going well in the Ulster semi-final. If Tyrone were to lose 3 times to Derry now in a row, that to me would be a disaster for Tyrone. I know Derry have made strides and all that. They've done absolutely brilliant underage. Rory Gallagher has done an outstanding job. But for Tyrone to go on and win the All-Ireland in 21 and then to lose to Derry 3 times in a row, not once, not twice, but 3 times, that would not go down well in Tyrone at all. And there seems to be a few bits of discontent in the camp. You look at Tiernan McCann leaving in the last few years, Paul Donaghy, who I'm a real fan of, for Donegal, particularly in the club championship, he's left the panel. I don't know, there seems to be a bit of discontent ever since they won the All-Ireland. I don't know what it is about this Tyrone team. And I've seen Paddy Andrews was mentioning him as his dark horse for the championship this season. But it looks at them so far. I know it's only pre-season, but this game now against Roscommon in the league next weekend becomes an even bigger game now for Tyrone. Because if they lose that, there'll be some questions then being asked about Tyrone and Brian Dewar and Fergal Logan indeed. So, big league campaign coming up for Tyrone. If they mess up in that, there'll be huge questions asked.
What about yourself, Mal? Obviously, you were in Armagh. You seen it, up close and personal. Obviously, we were probably watching from afar, but you're taking the game. Obviously, you were delighted with the win, but Tyrone can't be happy with that result on Saturday night.
Definitely not. And just to go back to last week in the drawn game in the group stages, like they had 2 chances to win the game. Peter Hart, I think he pulled his wide and Shane dropped his short. And even down in the tunnel area after the game, you could just see the sheer discontent, not discontent, the sheer devastation at not winning that game. And I actually thought Derry didn't need any more games in the McGrath Cup because they've got quite a small squad. And I thought, but when you think about it, Johnny says to me, what has made the difference for Derry? It's a settled team. Rory has started 12 players in all 4 games so far this year, and he had much the same sort of track record over this past few years. Like between the 2011 first league game and the Cork game before COVID, Derry had used 7 goalkeepers in like 10 years. And now Lynch is in. Like, I think Rory Gallagher has had 35 games with Derry and Owen Lynch has done goals in 34 of them. Even that alone tells the tale. And it's a very, very settled team. That's what I wanted. That's what most Derry people wanted. So I was so happy to get that result on Saturday evening because I didn't really think that. I thought Tyrone had more to offer. But to be fair, outside of that 10-minute spell that you were talking about, and I think it's whenever you're there that the win was significant. But once Derry started to work the ball short against the breeze, something Tyrone couldn't do, they were able just to run ragged, and it was very, very pleasing from a Derry point of view. But the thing about it is, as I said on here last week, getting 8 league points before Dublin come to Celtic Park is, I would swap every single one of those defeats for that. And I actually noticed, I interviewed Rory after the game, and one of the questions I asked him was, he was talking about the league, and I says, what do you feel you have to learn from last year? And he says, we weren't ready. And I said, do you mean the Dr. Hyde draw and the Galway game? He says, no, even the whole league as a whole, looking back on it, we weren't even at the level. So as much as Derry got 11 points and nearly got promoted, he didn't think they were at the level. But he's a serious operator. And I know a lot of people spoke about maybe they didn't have a plan B against Galway in the All-Ireland semi-final. And maybe they didn't. But in that first half display, they're maybe 2 or 3 points away from making Galway change their system. And Derry could have been in an All-Ireland final. Would they beat Kerry? I don't know. But from that point of view, imagine Derry had got to an All-Ireland final last year. That would have been amazing. And they weren't that far away with the way they were playing. It would have forced Galway to come out. So he's done an excellent job. But as I said, back to my initial point, I called it the revolving door. I got a piece in the Derry Post. I was working at the time. I says, dear Santa, for Christmas, it was one of those things you write in December. Can you bring us a crowbar to wedge the revolving door shut and keep the players in Owenbeg and stop them huffing and going to their clubs and leaving and new managers changing? So there's continuity, and it's no coincidence that there's now stability with that. So a long way to go, but very, very pleasing so far.
Absolutely, man. I suppose what impressed you most about their performance on Saturday night?
The Young Bucks, Owen McAvoy, I think it was his 6th ever game. He was McGrath Cup captain last year. I wasn't at the Fermanagh game, but he's marked Matty Donnelly twice, and he's marked Pat Havern. That's great experience for somebody to bring into inter-county level, and Rory trusts him. Also, Paul Cassidy, a boy who was brought into the panel, big tall lad. I thought he was brilliant the other night. Scored a point with his left foot and was up and down the pitch everywhere. And I don't know. It was probably a wee bit like Mickey Moore when he came to Slaughtneil. He believed in young fellas. He saw a few young lads around Slaughtneil at the time and he put them into the team. Rory's maybe the same. Get the young boys you feel will develop, and trust them and play them. And that's the 2 young individuals that stood for me. And also Brenton Rodgers at midfield. I don't know how we'll ever get him back into full back. We'll either have to find a full-back that's there to stay, but maybe if you look at last year's Ulster final, maybe you don't want him back at full-back, but those are the players up front. And I suppose I said it here last week, Niall Toner again kicked 2 or 3 points. In the forward line where Derry are crying out for somebody to step up along with McGuigan, Lachlan Murray kicked 2 points from play. And Rory did say, he went off at half time, he said it was a precaution with hamstring. He was just feeling tight and there's no point. So I'm definitely not getting carried away, because in the McGrath Cup is a pre-season competition. As Johnny said, it is pre-season. It is what it is. But a winning feeling is good. But if they could get, just more variation up front to, just to make themselves as predictable in the fact that McGuigan's the man, and it would actually take the pressure off him and, let him flourish a wee bit more. But continuity and stability definitely are the key words for me in Derry at the moment.
Brilliant stuff, Mal. And briefly, Kev, Derry success on Saturday night.
Yeah, brilliant. Look, I don't want to harp on about Rory Gallagher. I played with him, even listened to him. Guys had success wherever he's went. I'm not only talking about in terms of a player, Didn't he start cornerback for Fermanagh Miners when he was 15 or something? Mark D'Oisin McConville, I think it was, in the game. But, from when he was very, very young, right up through his whole club career, into his management career, guys had success wherever he wants, or wherever he's been. He knows this game inside out. And what I loved about this Derry win was when I was following the game and watching the game, I think it was 7-1 Mal at half time.
Yeah.
And the wind was a huge factor in the game and the conditions. And I'm thinking to myself, have Derry done enough here? Because the old Derry before Gallagher would have got in, would have capitulated, would have collapsed. Their character was gone. Then the first couple of minutes of the second half, Tyrone then get 2 or 3 points in a row. Next thing is the game's level. And I'm thinking, only one winner here. And what happens? Derry just come out and absolutely obliterate Tyrone. And look, I don't want to spend too much time on Derry about this, but I'm really, really impressed with him. Again, Mal's really beautifully articulated the issue about the goalkeeper and Lynch. I still have my worries about him. I said that to you last week. But back to the old Brian Clough. You get a good goalkeeper, a solid backline, and you build upwards. And Derry are certainly doing it. And I love what Mal has just said about the forward line. If I was Porrick Joyce last year, I was sort of looking at McGuigan, maybe, 1 or 2 others, and was saying if we stop these guys, if we get 1 or 2 fire stoppers, they haven't enough firepower to finish us off. And that's what Derry really need. If they can get somebody up in the end of Muldoon or the Paddy, when they had Muldoon and Bradley up front, or a combination 2 or 3 players, not just Shane McGuigan constantly ticking that scoreboard. I think this season is all about their attack. I think they're really good at the back. They have a lot of options in midfield. You think about that. You have Emmett Bradley to come back in, who was superb in the first 15 minutes after half time yesterday. It's up front really this season that I want to see them develop. And they're going to be really strong. Look, Rory Gallagher for Derry in 2-3 seasons has now, 11 points in Division 2. They've won the Ulster Championship out of nowhere. Probably should have got the All-Ireland final. They're McKenna Cup champions. Is this a miraculous turnaround? In a way, he's done well, but Derry were a sleeping giant. As I said to you before, they've generally a very good school system. They've got good underage structures generally, and they maybe need to improve them a wee bit more. And I think, Peter Canavan said it the other day, and he's right. The order in Ulster has changed, and certainly Armagh and Derry are now in the top 3. There's absolutely no doubts about that. And the league is going to be fundamental to them. For Tyrone, I said last week in this programme, Johnny, with Matthew and with John and with Mal, Tyrone is the one team I'm looking to this year to bounce back after such a rotten 2022. And, the signs are really bad. And I think Matthew makes a brilliant point. Hyde Park's never an easy place to go to at any time. And Tyrone are going to be vulnerable the first match of the league. And this can have such a knock-on effect in the league. If you go down there and you get a defeat, Tyrone are a very proud county. But look, the locals will get on their back very, very quickly here with the defeat. And, for me, they're now in a position where they're totally a dysfunctional team. I think it was Johnny made the point is there's a lot of miles on the clock at the back. Paddy Hampshire, who has been a brilliant defender for years, is a wee bit suspect at the minute. They've moved Michael McKiernan out to centre half back where he plays for the club, but he's probably better in a corner back. Young Niall Gormley, is it, who's a debutant this season? Niall Devlin, sorry, from Coal Island as well. He's come in. They've been trying Peter McCartan, who's come in as well. They've changed up the middle of the park a wee bit. They've put Con Patrick out the wing half forward to do what maybe Mal had listeners on to last week, is maybe targeting him from kickouts at 12. Richie Donnelly's getting a run in the team. And their forward line again is a wee bit dysfunctional for me. Molly Donnelly's getting older. I can see why they're putting him in a full forward, maybe as a target man. Dara Canavan, for me, he's small. You know, when we look at him playing in there against the likes of the Dubs or maybe Kerry in the coming year, I'd be happy enough for him to be playing in there if I was playing against him. I think he needs to come out the field, maybe the centre half forward, sort of Brian McGuigan role, playmaker. That's for me where he's more influential, not as tightly marked, where there's lots of space, where he can bring other people into the game. So again, Tyrone's bench. You know, Matthew mentioned, and rightly so, about Paul Donaghy not really getting a chance. Was he Mark Bradley walk off the squad? You know, where is Rory Canavan? Are we going to see him this year? If we were going to see him, my issue to you would be, right, they're holding him back. I was talking to Johnny off air about this. Why are you holding him back? It's his first year, rookie year at senior level. You know, if he's really going to perform in the league and make a difference, he's got to get used to winter conditions. He's got to be produced in there in the McGrath Cup. They haven't done it. I don't know if he's injured. There might be issues around that. So for me, Tyrone going into the season, I was really looking forward to it. They really didn't impress against Fermanagh. I thought they would have hockeyed Fermanagh. I thought they would have come out and made a statement of intent. Again, a draw against obviously Derry. They made, but you said you were very impressed with them against Cavan, and I really expected them to go into this game and win. And the way signs are shaping up, I'm just a wee bit worried about them in terms of strength and depth. And I never thought I would say that about Tyrone. Just when I look at their squad, I know they've injuries. You know, like Ronnie McNamee's out injured at the minute. You know, and maybe they're giving other guys a run, and it is early in the season. But some of the signs are a wee bit worrying. And as I say, if you go to Roscommon this weekend, Sunday, and you lose, you know, it's a big knock-on effect when you think of some of the teams, you know, that they have to go.
Yeah, I think that's the best sound I've ever heard from Kev. He's like that. We'll crack on, lads, because that's one way of keeping it quiet. But yeah, the clock is absolutely running us, lad. But that's absolutely brilliant analysis. And of course, in the O'Byrne Cup final in Glennon Bros, Pearse Park, you had Longford 3-13, Loud 12 points. Obviously, Longford are O'Byrne Cup champions, and that is great stuff for Paddy Christie. That's a serious start of the year and just what he would have wanted. And I suppose that's moving on to the big stuff. This weekend, it's Allianz Football League is back. Going to be back with a bang this weekend, obviously. So in Monaghan, it's Monaghan against Armagh in St Mary's Park, Castleblaney at 6:30 on Saturday. Johnny Murtagh, few eyebrows raised for this game being in Castleblaney due to crowd attendance, blah, blah, blah. But I suppose when the ball's thrown in at 6:30, that'll all go out the window.
Yeah, it'll go out the window. Look at it. I don't know, John. I think people's getting carried away with themselves a wee bit. I think, you know, it's a first round of the National League. The game is being televised. I think BBC iPlayer has the game. Is that correct?
It's not advertised, but you could be right. It's not advertised here, but go on ahead.
Maybe TG4 online, but it's definitely being televised. And yeah, it's definitely accessible to get. You know. I don't know, like Castleblaney's 6,900, I think, is the capacity. Inniskeen's not near that, and other than Clones maybe on a Sunday or an earlier game. Look at that. I don't see an issue. Look at, go and get yourself a couple of nice steaks and light the fire and get a nice bottle of Bordeaux and away you go. You know, watch it on the TV. You couldn't beat a nice Saturday night. So look at I'm looking forward to it, John. I'm not going to lie. I think whoever loses this game is going to be under the pump, big style. It's Division 1's very competitive. Armagh's definitely going to target this. Probably a wee bit of a red flag for myself would probably be the situation maybe with Rain. We haven't seen much of him, in the McGrath Cup. Like Rain will be fresh, he will be fine, no issue that way about him. But he's just Armagh, and that's it. He's our main player. He's the main stalwart. So listen, Monaghan, Vinny Corey's just in the whole new backroom team. Armagh's a lot more settled. I do think that we will win this game. I'm not going to lie, John. I think it's going to be one-way traffic for most of it, and I would fully suspect maybe a 6 or 7 point win for Armagh if we can get into a groove. We have a few players back from injury. Tyrone Kelly's back. Turbo's back. Young Mackin's back as well, available for selection, possibly start midfield. So we have a lot of strength and depth. We have a serious pick in the forwards. Like you've 9 or 10 top quality forwards there to scrapping for positions. My own clubman Keane looks like I don't think he's going to get a start just yet, and it's probably refreshing to see Callum Komsky back in there as well. That missed last season. Callum's a serious asset. Scorer, you can play him anywhere from half back to half forward to corner forward you can play him anywhere on the pitch. I would like to see him at 6. There's no doubt about it, but something tells me that Geezer's maybe going to start him at 11. Armagh sort of likes to stay high there, that I've sort of noticed a wee bit. They like to stay high, and Komsky is very good for an outlet for a ball as well. He can win his own dirty ball. He's strong in the tackle. Wee things like that. So I do think that like I said, look, at a fancy an Armagh win. I just think Monaghan, they're going to need a wee bit more work with a new management team, and like I said, Armagh's a whole lot more settled, and it'll be interesting to sort of hear what the lads think on that.
Yeah, obviously, 100%, Johnny. I suppose Armagh's season ahead, and obviously this will be a huge game. It'll be a sellout crowd, so I suppose it would be great to start the league with a win, Johnny. Oh,
listen, like I said at the start, it's the most important thing to get 2 points in this game, to get up and get a win and get on it. Division 1's very competitive. There's a lot of tough games. We have to go down to Kerry. There's another couple of games there that's going to be very interesting as well. It's a serious. I tell you what, across the board, it's the serious games on. There's going to be huge consequences, I think, for a lot of them. And this will definitely be one that Armagh has to target to get points on the board early. And listen, the most important thing for Armagh is staying in Division 1, the same as a couple of other counties. There's a couple of counties there, it doesn't really matter that much, but it matters to us because what we've been building, So I'll be very, very hopeful, John, and get the win.
Absolutely. I suppose kind of the year ahead, Johnny itself. Like, what kind of Armagh players are you all kind of looking out for the year ahead?
Well, I think Armagh is sort of like Derry, and they want to build on last year. Like I said, they've a good tight squad. They have a lot of guys back from injury. That I thought we were a wee bit skinny on it last year with maybe 4 and 5 injuries. That especially when the game came into the melting pot, you just didn't have the strength and depth, I felt, in Croker. So it is refreshing that we have new lads coming through there and blood and new players. And like I said, the likes of Komsky and TK and these guys and Torbert, I think they're just giving you more. They're giving you a bit of firepower off the bench as well. You've scrapping for positions in that forward line. It's going to be dog eat dog. So Oisin O'Neill seems to be going to be missing again, so which is a bit of a loss. But there's there is a lot of quality there, and it's just building on that, like the same as Derry's doing. You know, I'd actually like to see from us this year is to try and get a run together in Ulster. We need to start winning games in Ulster. We need to target an Ulster challenger. You know, Derry's going to be there or thereabouts, and I still think Tyrone will be there or thereabouts. We're on the right end of the draw. You know, listen, there's no point in saying we're not. We're on the right end of the draw to try and have a good crack at an Ulster, and I think that's Armagh needs to do is to try and get into maybe a National League final or try and go for an Ulster challenger, but try and get some sort of silverware, John.
Yeah, vitally important. Absolutely, Johnny. Yeah, that's 100%. Michael, thanks for your contribution tonight, and we will chat soon, my man. Thanks a million. We will see you soon. Best of luck, Michael. Take it easy. Matthew, yourself, that's an intriguing game in Castleblayney this weekend.
It is, yeah. I suppose like Armagh, they were probably the most entertaining team last year. Like a lot of people, like Tommy Rooney, I've seen on the off the ball actually ranked him. I think he was top 4 in the country, and a lot of people were saying Derry were above him, Tyrone possibly were above him, but I couldn't see the complaints really. I looked at Armagh last year, watched them in depths, and I thought they were superb, especially in that quarter final against Galway. I thought Rian O'Neill was brilliant, Aidan Nugent. Stephen Campbell, if they keep all them together in the panel, Ethan Rafferty as well in goal, who's an absolutely outstanding goalkeeper, one of the best goalkeepers in the country, I think they'll make a good run of it. So I probably think Armagh are probably one of the top 3 teams in the league, along with Kerry and Galway. So I think a league final is definitely up there with Armagh's objectives. I think they have to win an Ulster this year, though. I think that's absolutely vital, considering they haven't won it since 2008. That's a big gap for a county like Armagh. So they have to go on and win an Ulster title now. There's no point in gaining all this recognition and stuff like that. They perform brilliantly, but they have to go on and win an Ulster title now and compete with the likes of Kerry and Galway. As for this game against Monaghan, like it's a local derby, so anything's possible. Like Monaghan, it's strange with Monaghan, like Vinnie Corey's in charge there. He's a young manager. Like it's going to be interesting to see how he develops as a coach this season. So yeah, I think honestly, I'm looking at Monaghan's squad. A lot of them leaving the panel now, with Drew Wiley, Colin Walsh, inexperienced manager there. I just feel Monaghan that their time could be up in Division 1 this season, and I think the home games especially will be vital for them to get their fans behind them. For this game particularly, I think Armagh will probably win us by a point or 2. I just think Armagh at this particular moment of time are a better team than Monaghan. We'll have to see. Monaghan maybe might have that rivalry kick in them. We'll have to see now Saturday night. But personally, I just feel Armagh have too much for them.
Brilliant stuff, Matthew. Brilliant stuff. And I suppose we can move on to the big one as well on Saturday, lads. Mayo against Galway in Hastings McHale Park at 7:30, and of course the game will be live on RT2 and the RTI player. So all the places in the world to watch that game. Kev, obviously it's a huge rivalry over the years. Obviously, I know it is still a league, but there will be a bit of bite to the game, no doubt. It's a big game for Kevin McStay. It's a big game for Pork Joyce, and both men will be going at it along the touchline on Saturday night.
Yeah, interesting game. Sorry, John, I just got up. I got cut off by the Tyrone Mafia, who we weren't happy with me going on about Tyrone in the early season. Yeah, huge game, this one. Arguably probably the game of the weekend, if I'm honest with you. Look, it's live on RTE. It's got that rivalry, as you say, the old traditional rivalry, but a lot of narrative around this game in terms of this particular game on its own. Obviously, Galway coming back off the season that they had last year. In fairness, I wrote them off, and they got up out of Division 2. They're back into 1. They'll be a quick start. They'll be looking to build on last year and cement their place at the top end of Division 1. Mayo, Galway, are a common team. A lot of guys involved, like the likes of Matthew Tierney, were involved in NUIG's Sigerson success. Last year, they won for the first time in a long time in the Sigerson. And, a lot of guys coming up through the traditional way of football, schools, football, minor 21s, then into college and sort of making that breakthrough. Mayo, on the other hand, are sort of back down at base, or building that sort of They're back down, looking at them new players coming in to make an impression. Galway are maybe 2-3 years on their journey. This is a new journey for a Mayo team. Obviously, we know about the high-profile Lee Keegan retirement. We've got players there that are on the tail end of their careers. You know, McStay has come out publicly and said that, you know, he's giving people a chance. You know, Conor McStay has come in this year, seems to be doing all right in the first couple of games. Mayo obviously have, you know, they've beaten Galway already, albeit just in a McGrath Cup game, and that was maybe a bit of shadow boxing involved in that. So, look, they've got the home advantage, Mayo. As I said to you in our preview show last week, I really do expect McStay and the backroom team that he's brought in with him. I expect them to get a wee bit of a kick this year out of these guys, people to buy into somebody like Kevin McStay. Quite an articulate analyst on the game. Be really, you know, it'll be thrilling to see the way that he approaches this and the style of play that he brings in. Again, as an aside to that, let's see the way that he plays Aidan O'Shea. I would be expecting Aidan O'Shea to be a bit part player, maybe last 20 minutes of games coming in and out. Killian O'Connor, Dermot O'Connor, hopefully they get a good run at the season. Obviously, injuries has really hampered them over the last number of years. So, and then again, who comes into the back to replace the likes of Lee Keegan, Colin Boyle, these sort of boys that have gone over the last couple of years. So really interesting Mayo project and how they're going to regenerate that sort of defence midfield area. I know that Matthew Ryan and Loftus have been playing, maybe Loftus at centre back. So interesting to see about that experiment going forward. But for me, the game of the weekend, I'm going to stick my neck on the line. I'm going to say that Mayo with home advantage. I'm really young guys coming in looking to impress McStay. You know, that enthusiasm. Galway may just be one of the teams this year that I think might suffer a bit of second season syndrome, but I do think they'll stay in Division 1.
Interesting stuff. What about yourself, Johnny? It's a big game that everyone will be watching this Saturday night.
Yeah, I probably just have to go again, Kev. I don't think Galway is going to have any fear going down to Mayo. And I think they're going to relish it going down to have a crack at Mayo. Galway's very settled team. You know, I do get what Kevy's saying though, that there could be that, you know, second season syndrome. But as we've seen with Derry, there's no reason why they can't kick on. You know, suppose maybe Shane Walsh maybe is just, what way is he going to be maybe for the weekend, or is he coming back into the squad, or what's the situation there? But they do have an awful lot of talent. They're a top outfit, and yeah, I'm intrigued to see about Kevin McStay as well and his backroom team. But you know, as you alluded to, Kev, like Keegan's a serious operator to be taken out of there. You know, Aidan O'Shea, I agree with you as well. Like, you know, what's going to be his role? Is they going to play him in full forward? Are they going to play him in midfield? I would be inclined to agree with Kev that a bit part player would be as much as I think. I'd actually go as far as say as that I think Mayo need to move on from Aidan O'Shea, and that's, you know, and they need to stop talking about Aidan O'Shea. They just need to build something new, something fresh. And if he's fit to deliver something off the bench, well, that's a bonus, you know. And
do you think Kevin McStay is aware of that, Johnny? Sorry to put it in, but do you think McStay is ready to make that drastic change?
I think he is. I would agree with Kev. I think he's savvy enough to take and he's cute enough, and you know, most football people you're talking to can see this happening. Thinks that, you know, Aidan, maybe it's a different role he's going to need and something fresher for him, you know, and that's angry with a football brain, and McStay definitely is one of them. So the only thing is about that, John, is the fact that they've lost a couple of stalwarts over the last couple of seasons, and that rejigging is not going to be easy. And you know, Kev hit the nail on the head 100%. Can they keep the guys fit? The guys has been in and out with niggly injuries the last few seasons. Big players for Mayo. Can they get them back on song? But I would have no hesitation in saying that, like, Mayo is not a fortress to go to. Like, it's not a place that you'd be scared of your life to go to. You know, it'd be interesting to see what Matthew thinks, but I think Galway could go down there and get the win, lads. And I tell you, it's going to be it's another game that whoever comes out the wrong side of it could find themselves under a wee bit of pressure very quick. So it's a game I'm really looking forward to.
John, I maybe should have said, just sorry, Matthew, just before you come in, the one thing about Mayo this season, coming into this season, that I haven't said, or maybe GA pundits or supporters or players haven't seen in maybe 20 years, this Mayo forward line has the potential to be absolutely and utterly potent, brilliantly potent. When you consider all of the cogs in that wheel, the two O'Connors, Ryan O'Donoghue, Tommy Conroy when he's back fit, you know, and then this added issue of if plan A isn't working for them, let's get the big man and lump it into him and Aidan O'Shea at full forward and see who we can get off him as maybe a plan B. Traditionally, Mayo would have been the one team where I would have said to you, maybe defence and midfield, you know, you wouldn't be too overly concerned about, but it was Mayo's shot to ratio scores that had in years gone by. That's what had let them down, winning on All Ireland or 2 All Irelands or 3 All Irelands over the last 20 years or so. Now, when I look at Mayo's team, I fear a wee bit in defence and midfield for them, but certainly up front, they have all the ingredients. And by the way, one of them ingredients is a lot of chili powder, if you know what I'm getting at here. Up front, you know, they have a lot of firepower up there. It's, you know, it's if they can keep them boys fit, that's the one thing I'd say that maybe I see the change in Mayo. It's not about defence or midfield anymore. The real strength lies up front, and that's not something we've said for a long, long time.
Interesting stuff, Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, I suppose like some interesting points there made by the lads. Like Mayo, it'd be very interesting. And I agree on Kevin's point there. This Mayo forward line, when you look at the names rolling off the sheet, it's incredible. Really, Brian Walsh is a decent forward as well. Fionn McDonough is a forward that you know, he does well in some games and then drifts out of other games. Like if he is on it every game, you know, he's a outstanding player. Ryan O'Donoghue is brilliant as well. Their midfield is pretty good. Like Jordan Flynn, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the country. Very good player. He can play wing forward. He can play midfield. On the Aidan O'Shea debacle, like Aidan O'Shea should be dropped from Mayo. He should have been dropped from Mayo last year, in my opinion. I don't think he's good enough anymore. The game's probably evolved past Aidan O'Shea now, and he was just more of a hindrance to Mayo more than anything last season. The defence would be very, very interesting this year because, like, Rob Hendley's been out for quite a while, as far as I can gather. Colin Reid was in goal in the last game. Rory Bird was in goal for the majority of last season. You've Oisin Mullen leaving for AFL. You've Lee Keegan retiring. So that'll be probably an aspect I'll be looking at Mayo towards on Saturday. The defence, see, has it, you know, stayed the same, or has the departures of Mullen and Keegan affected them badly? Kevin McStay, I think, is the right man to lead Mayo. I think he speaks brilliantly on the Sunday game. I think he's an incredible reader of a game, and he shows in that Roscommon documentary from AIB that he's an incredible motivator as well for a Roscommon team that wouldn't usually win Connacht titles, but McStay just drove them to that win over Galway in 2017. I think he's an unbelievable motivator that way. Yeah. On the Galway situation, I don't think it'll be second season syndrome for Galway, in my honest opinion. I think Galway are an outstanding team. They have a young panel there. Rob Finnerty in the forward line, Tom O'Connell scoring freely in the Sigurdsson Cup, Matthew Tierney. You still have Shane Walsh there. You still have Damien Comer. You still have the Kellys in Sean and Paul, very good players. My issue for Galway probably is the goalkeeper situation. I don't think Galway have a top-class goalkeeper, and that kind of cost them in the All-Ireland final last season. So, look, that'll be interesting. Who do Galway put in goal? Do they put Conor Flaherty in goal, albeit he was very poor against Cork in the league last season? Or do they put Conor Gleeson in goal? He was poor against Armagh, against Kerry, particularly in the All-Ireland series last season. So, I don't know who Galway go with this time. I think Pádraig Joyce, an interesting year for him. He had a few down years in the first couple of seasons, but now last year he's stamped his authority on the Galway team. Honestly, if Galway lose on Saturday, I don't think it's a big issue. I think they're away from home against Mayo. Again, if Mayo lose, I don't think it's a big issue either. Like, both sides are really trying out new players for the season ahead. I don't think Galway, there's any danger of them going down to Division 2. And is there an onus to go on and win Division 1 for any county? Probably not, considering the All-Ireland is the big title there. So I think this is a game where a lot of new lads will be tried. I think the experiment of Conor Loftus should be very, very intriguing at centre-back. I've never seen him as a really defensive player. In terms of a prediction, I'd probably just edge it to Mayo because of home advantage, because of the home crowd getting behind them. But Galway, I think both sides will have a quietly good season.
Again, we're all looking forward to this weekend, make no doubt about it. And then I suppose we move on to Sunday's action, lads, in the Allianz Football League Division 1, Round 1. It's Roscommon against a fairly downbeat Tyrone after last Saturday's result in Dr. Hyde Park at half-1. A place not many counties would like to be travelling to on a Sunday lunchtime, Kevy, and Tyrone will really need to pick up the slack from last weekend. What's the verdict ahead of this one?
Yeah, if you're doing a bet this weekend, again, bet responsibly. But for me, this is a juicy wee number. You know, when we look it up, you know, Sunday lunchtime, Tyrone just on the back of hiding to, you know, one of their biggest rivals. You know, the mood in the camp. Again, this is Tyrone. They can go to Killarney or Tralee or you know, down to Galway or Mayo and win. You just can't predict with Tyrone sometimes in the league. But if there's going to be an upset in Division 1 this weekend, I would see this game as being the one. Again, Roscommon have changed management. You know, they're relying on the older guys, you know, the Smiths of this world, the Murders of this world, turn over the scoreboard.
Roscommon 2-1, by the way.
Yeah. So, look, for me, this is the one game. If Roscommon can get off to a good start and so that doubt in Tyrone's head, I wouldn't be surprised at all here of an upset. Conventional wisdom would tell us that maybe Tyrone are playing about in the season a wee bit and then they'll kick in this week. It just doesn't happen like that. I mean, we've seen Tyrone year after year under Mickey Hart when they were a top 3 team in the country, always winning the McGrath Cup, taking that start of the season professionally. And it just seems I think Johnny hit the nail on the head. This time last year, just there seemed to be this change in, I don't know, personality within that, the drive within that Tyrone team, and that led into a rather indifferent league for them last year. I still think they'll be in the top 5 in Division 1, but you know, if they do have a bad result here against Roscommon, you know, I think it will have an adverse effect on their season. So it's really important from Tyrone's perspective to approach the match professionally, to go into it, to forget about last week's result, and to try and get 2 points on the board as quick as possible. As I say, if I'm in Roscommon's camp at the minute, I'm thinking we hit these boys early and we sow the seeds out into their heads. But for me, I'm going to stick my neck on the line. This is the one game I might think there'll be a result in terms of an upset in Division 1 this weekend. I'm going to go for Roscommon.
Johnny, picking up what Kevin was saying there, obviously, you know, Davy Burke coming into Roscommon this year, Mark McHugh in the backroom team. Mark has played Tyrone numerous times over the years. Davy Burke would be absolutely mad to have a big stamp this weekend and no better game to put his foot down.
Yeah, I think Davy's a good fella, and you know, he done a lot on the range with Kildare, you know, with the 20s now, and you know, very knowledgeable, very good coach, good manager. He's going to love this. Like this is a big game for Roscommon down there, and like they're back up in Division 1, John. You know, they're going to be training hard for the start of the league. They're going to want to stay in Division 1. They're going to target this game and go for the win. I agree 100% with Kevin. I think he's on the money. I would be saying an upset, especially after the Tyrone performance in the McGrath Cup. People can read into that whatever way they want. Normally, like I said, the pre-season competitions, I wouldn't be getting carried away, but something's not right. You know, as Matt alluded to there earlier, 3 times now that Derry has taken Tyrone out by the roots. You know, that wouldn't go down well in Tyrone, and there's no way they would have wanted that. And the reflection on the second half, you know, so I agree with Kevy. I think Roscommon could easily kick on. They've good forwards, they've good firepower. You know, they're not afraid. And one thing about them, they'll shoot on sight. You know, they're not afraid to take on the score and back themselves to the hilt. You know, one of the Murtals could kick one wide, bang, step up again, Smith will step up. Any one will step up, they'll execute, they don't care, they'll have a go. You know, so listen, I think they're going to be sharp. I can imagine they're back trained early, they're in good shape. They've been training hard for this, John. They'll be targeting this game. And I agree wholeheartedly with Kev that I think you could see a shock here this weekend, and this will be it.
Yeah, 2-1 is definitely very favourable odds, make no doubt about it. I suppose obviously gamble responsibly, folks. And then moving on to Donegal against Kerry in Ballbuffet at 3:45 on Sunday. Kerry obviously minus David Clifford. Donegal up and down McKenna Cup form. Paddy Carr coming in to manage them this year. Michael Murphy stepping aside, Matthew. But look, this game, could we be looking at a draw?
We could be, and we also could be looking at when you mentioned all those factors there leading into the game. You could also be mentioning one of the most dour games of the weekend as well. Like when you look at Donegal's style of play, Michael Murphy leaving, Neil McGee's another big loss, 2 big losses in the dressing room. Never mind out the field of play. Paddy McBrearty, big pressure on his shoulders this year, taking on the captaincy. For Kerry, like I looked at them against Cork in Páirc Uí Rinn, and them players like Killian Spillane, Tony Brosnan against Cork in that McGrath Cup game didn't step up to the plate as well as they could. Jason Foley and Tyke Morley were playing in that Cork game and still got torn asunder. They conceded, I think, 3 goals in one half football, which I know it's early on in the season, but it's a bit of worrying signs for Kerry. And without David Clifford there, without Gavin White as well, who I think is very, very important, he's carrying an injury into it. Shane Ryan most likely to be out as well, and I think he's huge for goals, the way Kerry play as well, because I looked at Shane Murphy on the other hand for Kerry, their second-hand goalkeeper, and he just doesn't have the same, set of skills that Shane Ryan has. Like Shane Ryan went in goal to replace Shane Murphy for a reason a few seasons ago. So I just feel it could be a draw, just because I don't rate this Donegal team, to be honest with you. Like last year, it was very disappointing the way they performed against Armagh in that qualifier game. Against Derry as well was equally as disappointing. That was divine. Like they just didn't show up at all. And now they're minus Michael Murphy. Paddy Carr's come in. It's a big job in his hands. There's big pressure now as well at the shoulders of the likes of Ryan McHugh as well. He's one of the main players. Ryan O'Donnell, Oisin Gallen, if he plays. Like these young lads, there hasn't been that much pressure on their shoulders before, with Michael Murphy taking the mantle in the last few seasons. So this is going to be a big year for Donegal. And yeah, I think a draw is probably going to be a fair result looking at down the line in this game. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Kerry start the league without David Clifford.
Kevin, taking up on what Matthew was saying there, obviously Paddy McBrearty is the new Donegal captain. Michael Murphy steps away. A lot of transition in the last couple of weeks. Kerry minus David Clifford and Paddy Clifford. So, but Donegal end of things, is there need for panic up there, Kevin?
Yeah, there is. They're an old fella walking down the road with an oxygen tank strapped to his back. That's what they are, in my opinion, right now. This Donegal team has run its course, in my opinion. They probably will have a lot of new youngsters coming in to complement the likes of Ryan McHugh and obviously Patrick McBrearty, who's been about for a few years, Langan, who's been about for a few years. Don't get me wrong, there's talent there, but for me, they're in big trouble in Division 1 when I look at it as a rounded team. They probably can pull out results against teams like Monaghan, possibly against Tyrone and Derby games, but when Kerry come to down, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. Look, I happen to know Aidan O'Rourke pretty well. Aidan is not a coach that I would love. He's a brilliant coach, don't get me wrong. He's a very, very good coach, very articulate man in terms of the way he gets his point across, but he's very much a defensive coach. And when you're playing in a very expressive team like Kerry, and I take on board Matthew's point to a degree, but for me, when I'm looking at football these days, I look a lot at the Sigerson Cup, for example, and under-20s. I love to watch that to see who's the next coming talent. Tony Brosnan's a lovely footballer. Maybe Matthew didn't get the best out of himself that day down in Cork. This guy can play in the middle of the park. He can play wing forward for you. He can play centre half forward for you. There's just so much coming out of him Kerry experimented a wee bit in the McGrath Cup. There was maybe 3 or 4 guys that they brought in there to get game time to have a look at them and see. Obviously, they'd Kerry O'Reilly's, they'd Rathmore, and they'd obviously Fossa playing in All Ireland club competitions, so that allowed them to do that. You know, Michael Burns is another kid I want to see kick on with Kerry, you know, at wing forward. He's lots and lots of pace. He gets himself into good positions, and then maybe his end product isn't just great at times. I agree again with Matthew. You know, when you look at the likes of Gavin White and the Kerry wing backs, there's such an expressive team going forward, Kerry. Really expressive. Even their midfielders, you know, when you look at somebody like Savage or Barry, you know, these guys, they want to get up, they want to contribute to the scoreboard. And I just feel they'll have far, far too much for Donegal this weekend. You know, and if Donegal don't get off to a good start, I fear for them. In fact, again, bet responsibly, but I'd love to see what the handicap is in this match. Because Kerry will keep a lot in reserve, and if they need to, they'll bring on a lot of firepower. And the last point I'll make about Kerry is when people like Clifford, Paddy, and David aren't about, you've obviously had a number of retirements as well. You know, the likes of Killian Spillane now needs to step up to the mark. And again, Killian Spillane is a player that I really, really like. At the minute, he's making his name as an impact sub. When he gets the starts, he's going to have to contribute, because it seems to me that when he does get the starts, he doesn't really kick on in the way that I want him to. When he comes on as a sub, he's always contributing to the scoreboard. He's very, very pacey, and he knows where the goals are. So it'll be interesting to see really what their starting 15 is and the firepower they've got coming off the bench. But I would certainly say to people that I expect Kerry to win, and win reasonably well. The game's in Ballybofey, isn't it?
Ballybofey.
You know, again, a wee bit of surprise there for me, because if you traditionally look, Donegal usually have a game in Ballyshannon, and they usually have a game in Letterkenny during the league. So they split their home games over them 3 venues. Ballyshanon's not an easy place to go to. It's quite a dark and dull place. Letterkenny, wee bit better. So I'm surprised he didn't bring Kerry to one of them 2 venues to make it that wee bit harder for them.
Nice suits in Letterkenny, Kev. Nice suits in Letterkenny. Handicap betting, Kevy. Donegal +2 is evens. A handicap draw +2 is 17-2, and Kerry -2 is evens, Kevy.
Oh, that's pretty beautiful. I think Kerry have a lot of firepower this year. One thing about Kerry is they'll score a lot, and I do expect them to win, pulling up in this game, if I'm honest with you.
Johnny Murtagh, you are a huge Kerry fan. What are we thinking ahead of this game?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. I think Kerry go up there and win this game. You know, I do expect Donegal to be a wee bit, well, defensive. They're known to be defensive, so I think they will be very defensive. Kerry's going to have far too much firepower for me. You know, even from dead ball, Sean O'Shea and inside 60 yards, you know, that's going to be a huge factor up here the weekend. I don't know what the weather's like, but, you know, like the free count will be high with the firepower from Kerry. I don't know, John, how Donegal's going to hold them. I really don't. I think there's only going to be one winner, and I would probably think maybe 6 or 7 points to Kerry, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And it's probably another talking point that we didn't mention actually was the fact of the management scenario. Like, it took them so long to get management in place. Yeah,
what was your take on all that, Johnny? Obviously, Paddy Carr, Aidan O'Rourke, Bernard Jackman, Paddy Bradley all gone in, but what are we thinking?
Yeah, look at that. I do think a lot of the lads, and Kevy's right. Like, you know, Aidan is a good coach. You know, but he tends to be on the defensive end of things, and sweepers and double sweepers and stuff like that there, you know. So I couldn't see there being allowed to too many kick passing up the field. Probably keep it through the hands, stuff like that. Kevy would be right. You know, so I think it's more so as well in Donegal. Like I did say last year on the pod that you know, they need to be realistic up there. Like the fans are getting on the back. They're going to need to be in a wee bit of transition. They're going to need a wee bit of time to do a job. and to be welcoming the All-Ireland champions up in the Ballybuffet for your first game in the league, expectations don't need to be too high. They need to just find their feet, see where they're at with the new management, try and build something, and try and move forward. Because Kevy's right, they're going to be under the pump. I think they're on the slide and have been a good while now. You know, so I think the fans need to be a wee bit more realistic up there. I know they're good Gaels and everything else, and they're good people, but they need to just be realistic. You know, I'd hazard a guess and maybe say there was probably 30 phone calls for that job, and nobody was interested in going up. There's a reason for that, you know. So, and it turned into a total and absolute fiasco. They was drawn out to the last. So, look, it wasn't fair on the management team there at the moment. They do have it in place and they've loads of time, absolutely. But I can only see one winner here the weekend.
John, just on the side to that, one of the most important things for the viewers to look at this weekend is the connection that when we talk about a system, okay, most teams build it on defence and then counter-attack. Murphy was so important to that for Donegal because, one, he was so good on the ball, even if he's playing at 11 or in the middle of the park, but also they had a target man up front for them. And even if he, you know, in their system, Langan could come around and, you know, Kieran from Glentees, his name will come to me, he could kick points from distance. Them two guys could kick lots of points from distance.
Kieran Thompson, a
beautiful shooter of the ball from distance. And again, so was Langan. But in this system, without Murphy, where is the ball going to stick in there for McBurdy? When they break out of that defensive system, is there going to be a natural ball winner up front for Donegal? And I don't know if there is.
Could no Murphy incentivise Donegal to push on as a team collectively, Kevy?
Look, it could in West, but I don't see it. I really don't at this stage. And it could. We don't know yet. You know, when Arsenal, for example, lost to Aubameyang, people thought, they wouldn't kick on. But then they win the FA Cup that year. 2 or 3 seasons later, with a couple of subtle changes, they're now leading the Premiership. Who knows what can happen with subtle changes here and there. But I think Johnny maybe's hit the nail on the head. Every man his dog and his dog's barber was asked about this job. And they didn't want to take it. And there's a reason behind that. And Donegal is a huge county, huge support, lots of resources coming from Boston and Chicago and New York, you know, financial resources. But when you look at the team right now, its golden generation of the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years has now gone.
Yeah.
And Murphy was, and part of that was Murphy was such a great leader, a great character, but also he was intricately central to their game plan. Mm-hmm. You know, when you remove him, a central pillar from a building, it's going to collapse.
Yeah. And
he is such a huge pillar within that, you know, what they built that last 7, 8, 9 years on. And, you know, I really do fear for them. Look, I'm going to say it now. They're odds on for relegation in my book.
It's looking fairly grim. But we will see on Sunday if they can get anything out of that game. And obviously, I mentioned the draw. Draw's 15-2, so I think there's a bit of value in that. Of course, bet responsibly, folks. And moving on to Division 2 on Saturday, round 1, you've Derry against Limerick in Owenbeg at 3 p.m. Obviously, Derry in the back for a very successful McGrath Cup final against Tyrone, up against a Limerick team and minus Billy Lee. Mr. Matthew Hurley, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I think this is all the signs. I know Derry might have players missing for the Watty Graham's Lane side. Conor Glasson and Bradley, 2 marvellous players in midfield. But I think still they should walk over Limerick, in my opinion. I know Limerick are doing good work behind the scenes. Ray Dempsey's come in there. But even looking at Limerick the other night against Cork, I just didn't feel there was a spark there in that Limerick team. They only scored 1-3 from play against Cork, which wasn't really good enough. They relied on a few Cork mistakes to get them back into the game. And that's only a week before the league, so that's not really good signs. I know they have Ian Corbett, Cian Sheehan, very good players there. They're playing Michael Donovan, who used to be a cornerback in midfield, so that should be very interesting to see how that develops on Saturday. 2 of their main forwards, Josh Ryan and Danny Neville, have quit the panel in the past few seasons. just be this Limerick team. It could be fighting relegation this year. I actually think Limerick will stay up. I think they've good players. Like they have good strength and conditioning there. Very similar to the hurling when you look at it behind the scenes. When you look at the build of some of these players, they just lack a bit of skill to compete with the likes of Kildare, Dublin, Cork, and Derry in this division. So it should be very interesting to see how they develop this season. I think they will stay up, but this game should be a bit too far. I think Derry, even without the two lads in midfield, should breeze to victory.
Yeah, I think so, lads. I think so. I think that's probably one of the more obvious results of the weekend. And I suppose moving on to Dublin in Division 2 for the first time in I don't know how many years. Maybe Matt, you could correct me on this, but Dublin against Kildare in Croke Park at 5 p.m. Saturday night under the lights. Johnny Murtagh, Dublin are in Division 2.
Yeah, what's the pitch going to be like?
True, very true.
Look at two teams both down from Division 1. Tell you, I think this is going to be a feisty enough affair, to be honest. I would still fancy the Dubs, but listen, Kildare's going to love coming up against Dublin again. So I'm looking forward to this one, John. Obviously the Kilmacud lads will be out. But you look at the strength and depth that Dublin has, it's going to be no issue. It's going to be no issue there. I'm not sure on any injuries actually on the Dublin panel. Maybe some of you guys can fill me in.
Any injuries on the Dublin?
No, I don't think they have.
I think
Fresh enough, Matthew, is it? All quiet?
I think it's all quiet. Yeah, I think Con should have recovered by now.
Con should be fine, surely.
Yeah, but that's the.
But will he play the league though? Will he play the league?
Well, everybody wants to see him playing, John. I think a few league games going to do him no harm. It's probably a point that I actually wanted to make from the previous game with Derry on Conor Glass. Conor Glass to me the other day looked completely shattered. He looked mentally tired.
That's what I said to you yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, he was completely the worst game I've ever seen him playing. And that was in a club final.
Does this bring it back to the fixture scheduling, though, Johnny? Like,
100%.
As Kev said at the start, looking after the welfare of our players.
100%, you're 100% right, and like I believe that Derry should give Glass the next couple of months off.
Yeah. Like Clifford.
And like Clifford and Paudie, two Cliffords, like David Clifford has played some amount of ball, lads. Jesus, it's been scary. But look, it's a different subject, different topic, but I just want to highlight it. Back to Dublin, Kildare. I would fancy Dublin to get over the line, but I do think it could be a cracking game.
Okay.
Two quality teams going to go at it. And look at the two of them will be favourites. While Derry's there as well. Cork. They were very impressive in Kerry. I watched that game. Albeit Kerry had a bit of a not so much of a team out. Matthew, I'm sure you'll agree, but Cork looked very sharp. They looked different. They looked a lot different than last year. It's a pity Dan's not on because I would like to hear his point on that too. So, but it's still.
Dan wants a few weeks off. He's kind of like Clifford and Walsh. He thought last year was too long, so he wants a couple of weeks to research.
He's dodgy hamstrings, anyway. So.
Typical Dan. Sure, we'll do all the hard work, and when we're dragged down for a free, he'll come out and take it. Lazy.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
This is the hard graph. January's the hard graph, lads.
Can we heading around the 14?
Probably straight in front of the goal for the on-boy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but look at John, back to the Dublin game. Con's going to be big one. I want to see him playing. I want to see what he's going to bring to this Dublin team, and are they going to be contenders this year? I think that's everybody's thinking the same thing, and Dublin's going to be Dublin. And I would like to see some new blood brought in as well. Like they have a massive pick up there, like phenomenal. It's time to start seeing a wee bit of something fresh in there too, and kicking on a wee bit. So look at, I would give a squeak to Dublin. I think Dublin at home, but I don't think it'd be a foregone conclusion.
Kevy, Kildare, Glen Ryan. What do we think of this year? Obviously, this game
I'm not interested in them, John. I'm not interested in them. And I'll tell you why. They go inside Croke Park. They let you down every time you ever think Kildare. Last year, they flirted with a couple of games in Tyrone. They were excellent and just didn't get over the line. A couple of other games, you know, they flirted, you know. Oh, man, like, you know, it's just, you know.
That Kerry, didn't it?
Yeah, but they flirted
when it came to the crunch. When it came to the crunch is what the man said.
You know, they just flirted with you, and then all of a sudden it got to the tail end of the league and they just didn't have it. And then we all thought maybe for once they'll give, you know, Dublin a game. And Dublin hockeyed them inside Croke Park last year. And
yeah,
I don't expect any different. In fact, I expect Dublin really this year to come out with some intention. For me, Johnny, I think Johnny makes a really good point about Dublin. And this is the most interesting thing. I'm not worried about Dublin, whether they get out of Division 2 or not. Just want to see what new blood they're going to bring in. They need a wee bit of difference from the last couple of years, where it just hasn't gone so right for them. What are they going to change up? Obviously, they've had maybe a retirement or two. What are they going to change up? For me, they need one or two players at the back. I see Pascal's back involved. Love Pascal. I think he's a brilliant footballer.
Brilliant.
Always did. Seen him when I was playing down the Dublin Championship with UCD. Seen Pascal playing for Ballyboden. Kid's very, very talented. You know, he's sex on legs in football. Like, he just is. It class oozes out of him. You know, he's the sort of kid that can ping a ball, you know, like a golfer into a par 3. He'll put it on par for you, this kid. He's so good of a player. So great to see him back involved. Costello maybe had a bad sort of he had a bad enough year last year compared to what he seems to score highly during the league and then not really do as much as we want in the bigger games in the championship against the Kerrys or the Tyrones. So a big year for him. Be interesting to see what he does with the Kilmacud guys. Kilmacud traditionally haven't been overly represented. Okay, Kane was there and Rory was there. Rory O'Carroll, Kane Sullivan for a while. But, you know, obviously Mannion's there now. Is he going to bring in Darren Mullen, who obviously had an exceptional game the other day into the panel? You know, traditionally, as Johnny said, Dublin has a really, really big pick. And there's lots of kids there. Last year, they brought one or two through. You know, that played a lot of game time for them last year. So look, he's starting to build. He's starting to replace the guys that have maybe over the last couple of years that have retired. But that's my one look at Dublin during the league. I'm really going to see the guys that are going to come in to the team, particularly in the defence. I think from 8 upwards, 8 to 15. This year they really have, you know, Bulger's got another year in the league. Lehef's got another year. You've obviously got Brian Fenton. You've got Kieran Kilkenny. You've obviously Conn to come in there. You've Costello. So the forward line is sort of really well shaped, but it's at the back now with Alexa Johnny Cooper going that we're really like to see.
Yeah. Absolutely, Kevin. Top class as per you. As usual, and moving on to oh, you've lost me train of thought, Kevin. Yes, perfect. Matthew Hurley, Cork against Meath, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, 1:30. You would be watching from afar somehow, some way.
Yeah, definitely will. It's going to be weird not being there in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the league, but yeah, another league season for Cork. Last year we didn't win in our first 5 league games, and it looked all doom and gloom. And ever since the Down game, really, winning against Down and Offaly, the pride's been back in the jersey. We've put up good performances against Kerry and Dublin in the championship, beat Louth and Limerick, and then we had 3 good wins in the McGrath Cup. So seems to be on the up now. People are starting to notice that this Cork team now. We're playing a nice brand of football under Kevin Walsh. We're defending as a unit as well, and you know, there's a togetherness in the team and there's a pride in playing in the jersey. That hasn't always been there with Cork football teams in the past. So that's a bit refreshing. But I suppose this game is so important to Cork at the weekend. If they lose this, it's going to be a big, big, massive blow to John Cleary and his team.
Do you think so? Go as far as that, yeah?
Sorry?
Yeah. Or you go as far as saying that, like it's a huge, a huge blow.
I suppose because Meath are kind of in the same trajectory as us. Like when you think about I would tip Meath to go down. I don't think Meath have actually strong players. And when you look at actually the next 2 games Cork have, they're against Kildare and Newbridge, and then the Dubs coming down to Park Keith. So, like, that's almost like, well, I suppose Kildare is probably, you could target that as a win, but looking at the Kildare's home record last year, they beat Dublin, they drew against Kerry, and they beat Monaghan quite comprehensively in Division 1. So that'll always be a very, very tough place to go. And you know how good Dublin are as well. That game is definitely a write-off. So I think we have to win this game against Meath on Sunday, in all honesty. Like, it'll be interesting to see who starts. Ian Maguire has a bit of a twinge. We'll have to see how that goes on over the next week or so. He was out of the McGrath Cup final. We'll have to see if he recovers for that. Sean Meehan will definitely be back at centre-back. Daniel O'Mahony has to be back at full-back. And that combination between the two, I think, will be one to watch, especially in 2023. 2 quality defenders, 2 quality leaders in that Cork team. You look at the quarterback, Sean Poulter is playing further up the field now. Kevin O'Donovan, a quarterback. Micheál Martin settled in goal. I would think Matty Taylor has to
Martin, get that one. Not the president or the Taoiseach.
even better, his son. Like, that's that's even better having the son, the tallest son. That's some remarkable achievement for him. But yeah, Colin McCallan in midfield, very good player, 2-5 in the McGrath Cup for play. You'd have to think he'll play. Brian O'Driscoll back in the panel now for the first time since 2018, so he's a rejuvenated player as well. John O'Rourke is a very good coming off the bench player. You would have to think Conor Corbett will come into the panel now. DCU aren't playing this week in the Sigurdsson Cup. Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock, Cathal O'Malley will come back from club as well. So we should have a strong enough team going up against Meath. As for Meath, I think if we handle the likes of Jordan Morris, Matthew Costello and Harry Hogan's kickouts, I think we should win this game quite comfortable. I'll be quietly confident. But we have to win this game. I think John Cleary and his team know that. I think Rob Heffernan knows that, as well as Kevin Walsh. It's such an important game. We have to cut out errors of our game. Like, we conceded some sloppy goals against Limerick in the McGrath Cup final. If we do that, if we reduce speed to very few chances, I think we'll win this game comfortably enough. I would think, yeah, we should win this game anyway, but it's a must win, I think, John, if we are to compete really for the top end of Division 2, which Cork teams should do really.
Absolutely. Obviously, Rob Heffernan and Mr. Walsh going in to help Mr. John Cleary with the Cork footballers. So it'll be very interesting to see how that dynamic works. And the last game of Division 2, it's Clare against Louth in Cusack Park, and it's 2 p.m. Colin Collins going into his 10th year managing the Clare footballers, Mr. McGurty.
Cracking game to look forward to, and in certain ways, traditionally, obviously the other games we've talked about, not a great fixture in terms of one that would draw the attention of the media and the public. But what Colin Collins has done over this last 10 years has been nothing short of brilliant. Do you expect him to stay in this league again? Yes. I suppose on the flip side of that, Mickey Hart is sort of maybe going to be targeting this game. Obviously, we've seen this week that somebody like David Tubridy, he's the highest scorer in the history of the National League, isn't that correct?
He is, and he's a new Sunday Game pundit.
Yeah, so he's on the Sunday Game, and rightly so. And it's great that Sunday Game have recognised him in that way, and a guy can come in and give us his expertise on that in terms of forward play. But he obviously that takes a lot away from Clare. But when you're going down to Ennis, it's a difficult play. The game's in Ennis, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I thought it was. It's a difficult place to go. So
would that be far from Belfast?
About 4.5 days in a camel.
What about from Edinburgh?
16 days in a camel, Johnny. No, it's a difficult place to go. They've built it as a sort of, in a way, they've built it as a fortress. A lot of teams have gone down there expecting a win over the last 7-8 years, especially in the league, and they've come away. And obviously they had a game against Kerry in the McGrath Cup where they were very, very competitive for long periods. So Mark Dorn's getting in there. They've changed up the backroom team a bit. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I still think Clare have enough to stay in this league. They've enough firepower up front. Sexton, a very good scorer as well.
Kerry.
Cleary as well. Yeah, really good scorer. So, you know, Louth, look, are they
Sam Mulroy?
Yeah, are they going to be over reliant on Sam Mulroy? That's my big question with Louth. Obviously, Mickey Hart and you know, Horst Devlin will have them very well set up. There's no doubt it'll be difficult to break down, but that's only one part of a plan. You've got to know what's happening then up front. You know, last year was a brilliant year for Louth. They're going to take a lot of momentum into that. Look, things weren't too bad for them in the McGrath Cup either. So, you know, they're going to take a lot of that down there. But for me, Louth maybe will have to target this game. That's one of the teams that they'll target. But I'll come back to what I said last week. There's maybe for me a top 4 and a bottom 4 in this league, and Matthew mightn't like me saying this. Cork are in that bottom 4, if you want to put it that way, alongside, you know, Clare, alongside the two promoted teams in Limerick and Louth, and they're the sort of games they want to be targeting against each other. You know, none of them's going to take anything off Dublin. I don't think any of them's going to take anything off Derry, if I'm honest with you. And then you look at, you know, your Kildares of this world. So, you know, really that league is quite tight, in my opinion, in terms of the teams playing against one another. And Louth will certainly be targeting this as one of the games that they can pick up points. But for me, still, I'll have to go where what now is a consistent opinion. And that's what makes Colin Collins' job, what he's done, is brilliant. Consistently, when teams now, no matter who they are going down the Ennis, you're saying it's going to be a game here. And, you know, Clare at home have been excellent over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly. So I'm going to go for Clare.
Just a side note, not John. I believe Davy Bourne is in as a keeper with Laird. Casey Bourne's brother used to play. Remember, Davy used to play Kevin.
Yeah.
Very good player, very good outfield player, play midfield, play in the forward line, play full forward. That'll be interesting if he goes between the sticks, because he's definitely going to be a sweeper keeper. So that's something probably to keep an eye on, because it's something that they actually struggled with. If you remember, at different stages last year, they did struggle with the issue around the keeper. So that's something just to keep an eye on, John, moving forward as well.
Again, that second season syndrome, Johnny and Matthew, where they had such a brilliant year last year. Nobody, including myself, really predicted how good a year they were going to have. And like, they had a brilliant year. And now they come up and they're, you know, I say again, like Tyrone in the first game, if they don't win that, or Roscommon don't beat Tyrone, it really affects the rest of your league. And if Clare go down, or Louth go down there, you know, and or Limerick go up to Derry and you don't get that victory, then all of a sudden it has a knock-on effect that ripples throughout the league. So there could be that, and the fact that Mulroy needs help up there. You can't go through a Division 2 with a guy kicking the same number of points as he did in Division 3 last year and being really the only guy that was turning over the scoreboard for them week after week. As Matthew pointed out last week to the viewers about Antrim, they didn't have a consistent score last year in every game. Louth did under Mulroy, but the teams in Division 2, especially at the upper end, they'll be too cute for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, good stuff, lads. Good stuff. I suppose moving on to Division 3 in the first game on Saturday night, you have Fermanagh against Longford in Brewster Park at 6 p.m. And of course, Johnny, Longford bouncing after their McGrath Cup victory. Obviously, Paddy Christie leading to that. Fermanagh under the stewardship of Kieran Donnelly. But look, it'll be a very tight game in Enniskillen on Saturday night at 6 p.m.
I don't know, John. You know, Paddy Christie seems to have done a serious job in there. He's going to be very well organised, well switched on. The matchups are going to be spot. He's going to bring something new to the table. I'm looking forward to seeing where they can go with this. I know it's early days. Good run in the McGrath Cup. You know, like, this is going to be. Listen, there's no doubt about it. Fermanagh's a very hard place to go. You know, Kieran's in the second year, so, you know.
Oh, and Ronan O'Neill, forwards coach. Yeah.
Who?
Ronan O'Neill, former
Ronan O'Neill, forwards coach, right?
Yeah.
Are they going to play with a couple of forwards, are they? I don't know, lads. I'd expect it to be, Fermanagh's going to try and make it into a dogfight and try and get over the line. I think Christie's going to be too smart for that. I think they've far too much firepower, and I think there's only going to be one winner, and that's a away win for Longford. I think they're going to kick on. They're going to take an awful lot out of last week. They're going to be really, really looking forward to it. So, listen, it is a hard place to go. There's no doubt about it, but I think it's refreshing as well again, and I do think they'll get the win, John.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. And then moving on to Tipperary against Down, FBD, Semple Stadium, 6 p.m. Kevin McCarthy, Down your team to watch this year, but that is a tricky test to go all the way up to Tipperary, my man.
Well, I'm not professing to be above God, but God himself, Mr. Canavan, had said this week that Down are his sneaky suspicion for this year, and I said that to you well before Christmas.
What was that?
John, as in Mr. McMahon, did I text you before Christmas?
Yeah, I was on the phone to you, Kevin. One of our numerous phone calls. And
I said to you that I fancied Down for a long time. Lavery, brilliant. I'm sick saying this. He's the best coach in the GA at the moment. Not the tactician, coach. And you get teams motivated. He'll get them up. He's played at the highest levels of the game himself. He knows what this is about. He's getting a tune already out of this Down system. I'm reading a lot of articles last week about how Down are set up and they know what to do. Some of these Down lads, and I see half a snigger in Johnny's face because Armagh people hate saying this when they're in the ascendancy at the minute in Division 1. But, when you look at Down, Kilcoo are a very good team at the minute. A lot of youngsters there. Burn have a lot of real good youngsters coming through. A lot of these guys are involved in the county panel. And they're getting good exposure at college level as well at the minute. And I expect, as I said to you last week, I expect Down to win this division. Yes, it's a tricky trip. And Matthew articulated last week to the viewers about David Parr and maybe his fears for Tipperary this year in this league. And I just think that this is Down are coming in with great momentum, and I have no doubts the professional Lavery. I have great faith in him. He works in the GA every day as a
Trinity College,
as a games development manager at Trinity College. Look, this guy eats, sleeps, shits, and breathes the GA.
Don't we all?
Yeah, no. Nobody like this guy. Nobody like this guy. Literally nobody like this guy I've ever seen. He takes under 12 girls, under 14 girls, under 12 kids in his own club. He takes nearly every team that there is in Kilcoo. I've seen him out working with him. A couple of years ago, they opened a new field down in Kilcoo. He invited myself and a couple of other people from across Ulster to come down and play a match. He's just ingrained in it. And he will do everything in his power. He's a very proud person. He'll do everything in his power to ensure that Down are successful. He's obviously brought Marty Clark in there with him. He's another guy, Dackie Morgan, who's a school teacher in the Red Hand, and Patrick with him, who's managed a lot of club teams in Down. These guys will leave no stone unturned. And, Down will go down there. They'll have a professional attitude. The county board, in my opinion, will back Lavery to the hilt. They'll go down with a professional attitude. And again, for me, this is nailed on and away win, in my opinion.
There we go.
Just a point on that, Kev. They are down. They're down and they're down. But you know what I mean?
Pardon the pun.
But he's coming. He's getting them at the right time. They're on the slide. He's getting them at the right time. He was always going to get that kick because of who he is, the coach that he is. I think he's top class. I have a lot of time for him.
Yeah.
But this one thing he's going to have them extremely fit. They're going to be so super fit, and they're going to be well coached. But again, Kevin, you can't make a silk purse out of a pig's ear. I do expect them to go up, but it's going to take a wee bit of time for them as well. I wouldn't just say this, it's a foregone conclusion. There's other good teams there. Cavan's on the rise as well. They're a different sort of team. Cavan's a big, strong, able unit. Darren's more of a running team. You're going to see him play the ball through the hands a lot more, stuff like that, Kevin, you know. So, listen.
It's a good point, Johnny, that you make there. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's open to debate for people. But look, whether it be this year or whether it be down the line, Lavery's going to make a team out of this. He knows what.
Oh no, he will. But
Eventually, yeah.
I just say that, like, again, a wee bit of patience. But I do agree with you, and I have been on the slide. And he's getting them at the right time. He's definitely going to get a bounce, and that winning mentality is going to come to them now again. They're going to start winning games again, which is massive, you know, for momentum. So, and the county's going to get behind him. So yeah, absolutely.
He's the sort of, not to draw a line to this, but very, very similar to the Jim McGuinness of Donegal. He's not going to get to them heights as quick as Jim McGuinness did. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of expectation with Conor, and Conor knows that. But there's a lot of faith in Conor. And there's a lot of people that buy in to what Conor's doing. And maybe that wasn't happening over the last couple of years in town. We've seen Kilcoo boys walk away for a couple of years there. There will be huge buy-in from every club, from every person, and certainly by the county board to Lavery. And that's maybe one of the reasons why, when they looked at that project last year, that Lavery was going to go in as a coach and maybe McGuinness in, if you remember, as manager. That was touted for a long time. And there's going to be huge buy-in from this kid. And look, they have one or two really tasty forwards. Look out for a kid, Liam Kerr, speed merchant. Look out for young Murdoch, really, really good player as well, coming through, playing for Jordanstown. I mentioned last week. The 4 or 5 kids coming through from a Burn team, obviously a couple coming up through Kilcoo. Daniel Guinness, not a bad player as well. They have a wee bit to work with. So, look, that's why I'm tipping them for Division 3, but definitely they're, for me, nailed on this weekend as an away victory.
Tyrone Cup favourites.
Oh, good stuff, lads. Right, this has been a bit of a marathon, so we'll try to kick on as best as we can. Sunday, Westmeath v Cavan, TEG, Cusack Park, 2 p.m. Match early.
Yeah, it's an interesting game, I'd say. It's going to be an evening match encounter. Like, Cavan only have a bit of a trek to travel down to Westmeath, so I think this will be a really big encounter. I think I would edge it slightly to Westmeath. I'm going to say, like, Ronan O'Toole is a very good player, John Hazelton, and if Westmeath are going to aim for promotion, I think the home games was going to be key for them this season. So I'm going to edge us towards Westmeath for this game.
Super stuff, Matthew, and thanks for being the pundit on the podcast this year. It was nice knowing you.
John, just as a matter of for our punters.
Oh, here we go.
Well, just asking you, what's the odds on a draw on that?
Oh God, Kevy, give me 1 second. Johnny, until I get the odds, Kevy, what do you think for that game? Just until I get the odds, just keep the thing going there.
Well, hopefully Westmeath win, obviously, but no, that's going to be.
Does he don't know what Westmeath then playing at home? I go to draw.
It's
going to be tighter than a Ducks Arse, but you know what's the odds?
Let's see now. Let's see what the odds are. And do you fancy you were kind of tipping Westmeath a few weeks ago for a big enough year, Kevy? What do you think it's still?
No, John, stop talking over it. You should have done this research beforehand. This wouldn't happen at all. It wouldn't happen with Paddy Andrews and James Donaghy and all these boys, you know. So get your research done, man.
13-2 a draw.
Pretty good price. Pretty good price for a draw in that game.
Well, more than likely, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the Westmeath project under Desi Dolan. Obviously, the prodigal son as such coming back the year that they had last year. Again, as I said to you, their league form, especially in Mullingar, was a wee bit patchy. If I remember, Matthew, just keep me right as the stats man on this. They get beat at home by Longford, I think it was last year. And everybody expected them to win that game that would have seen them go top of that division. And that was their ultimate downfall. Nobody really seen that one coming. So their league form was a wee bit patchy. Obviously, on the back of winning the Tyrone Cup, brilliant for them. So they're coming in with a lot of momentum. That's, you know, but as I say, for me, it's awful and down to go up. So I've nailed my colours for the mask. I'll stick with that.
Yeah, but Mullingar really suit Cavan too, Kevin.
Why is that, Johnny? Is it do they not charge for parking down there, or what's the story like?
No, there's a dodgy house and stay beside it, so they get parking all right. But
the Cross McGlen boys would work well up there.
Yeah.
The Cross McGlen boys.
no, but look, it's a serious pitch.
Yes.
It's a serious setup, and I think it will suit Cavan. Cavan can play ball too, so it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight.
But it's that over reliance on, as I spoke to you last week about, John. This is where we said about Dublin. I want to see this to a degree with Cavan. Who else they're bringing into the setup? You can't rely on Riley still. You can't rely on McKiernan still to get you out of holes. Obviously they've got decent guys at the back, but Paddy Lynch last year was really good at times. But they need to unearth one or two bits of talent during the league for me to really drive that on for promotion. And the problem why I don't think they'll be promoted is I just don't think they have enough aces in their pack. I really don't.
Well, we're 2 hours into this, lads, so I don't know. Can we discuss much further?
Just go on.
We just keep the ball rolling. Maybe a few quick shouts. Antrim Offaly, Kevy, quick shout on that one. Carrigan Park, 2 p.m.
Oh, the faithful county will. I think they'll win that. It'll be a typical assignment for Antrim. It's a long way off for Offaly, but I think they'll take the 2 points back down the road.
Great stuff. Division 4, lads. We've got there finally. Carlow against Wicklow, Network Cullen Park, 7 p.m. Saturday evening. Matthew Hurley, in one word.
Yeah, Wicklow. I think Carlow's defence is very, very poor. They're over reliant on Dara Foley. So I think Wicklow under Oisin McConville will get their first win of the campaign. Beautiful
stuff. Johnny Murtagh, Wexford against London in Chadwick's Wexford Park at 7 p.m.
Well, look at Wexford's got a new legend over them, Wexford legend, which isn't Matty Ford. So, but in saying that, I don't know. I would give London a chance here, boys.
Michael Maher's buzzing for the year ahead, buzzing to get that project going.
Yeah, look, they've done brilliant last year. Very well set up, very organised. They took a good few teams by surprise. I don't know. Could you give them a chance? I would give them a squeak. Squeak to London.
Super stuff, and we will move on to Sunday's action. It's Leitrim against Waterford in Avant Money Park. Sean McDermott at 1 p.m. Kevin McGarty.
Live and exclusive on ESPN across all 50 states in America. It gets the juices flowing. That one does. You would expect, I think Matthew said last week, and I think he's right, that Waterford are possibly the worst team in the country at the minute. So you'd be expecting a handsome Leitrim win. And the handicap would be interesting to see in that one.
Very last game, lads. Very last game. It is Sligo against Laois, Markovich Park, 2 p.m. Mr. Matthew Hurley.
Yeah, I said Sligo will finish top of the Division 4. Laois are on a downward spiral after 3 retirements in the team last season, including the great Ross Munley. So, yeah, Sligo, after their Tag-Team Cup adventure last season, I think should get the job done here, and they could even go 7 games from 7 in Division 4.
Brilliant stuff. Very last thing, lads, the very, very first one of the year. Johnny Murtagh, you're a player to watch this weekend and bet of the weekend.
Oh, player to watch. Do you know what? I'm going to go with Tony Brosnan for Kerry up in Donegal. Good man, Kev. Thanks.
He's raging. He's absolutely raging. He's Pierce Brosnan's brother.
Yeah, Tony Brosnan. And the bet of the weekend.
Kev to have about 17 points in him by Sunday.
No, I'm going to go with the cabin draw.
Lovely.
17, John? Just 17 by Sunday? After watching Tyrone get paid, I'll have about 25 in me.
Oh, it's getting to that time. 2 hours, lads. I think this is the longest one we've ever done, but it's great. GA chat's brilliant. It's back. Mr. McGarty.
player to watch this weekend after Tony Brosnan being stole. Do you know what? I'm gonna focus on the same match and a player in that match. Roscommon to overturn Tyrone.
Okay.
And the player to watch is, I suppose, Petey Hart. Tyrone need a leader to stand up this weekend, and it's going to be one of three. It's going to be Petey Hart, it's going to be Matty Donnelly, it's going to be Porrick Hampshire. It's a huge weekend for them. This is a huge season for them. So there you go. Roscommon and Petey Hart.
Brilliant stuff. Mr. Hurley, we leave the last words at you, the Mr. Wise Man.
Yeah,
Michael, he was going to say Michael Collins, but they shot him.
Oh, Lord.
Very close, Kev. It is a cart, man, I'm going to say. It's going to be Colm O'Callaghan, 2-5 at the McGrath Cup. I think he'll light up low against Meath. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I think he'll do well against Meath. I think Colm O'Callaghan will be the one to watch, the player of the week. Base of the week, I'm going to go London to beat Wexford. I think Wexford are very dodgy in Division 4, and I think London will get a scalp under Michael Maher once again.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. I'll go Donegal Kerry to draw, and I'll go Rian O'Neill if he plays this weekend. We'll throw a fish at it. Mr. McCurdy, thanks a million. Mr. Murtagh, thanks a million. Mr. Hurley, thanks a million. And of course, the podcast is brought to you by orgarich.com. 20% off the rest of January. Get your hands on the gear. Lads, I don't know what the stage is after that one, but thanks very much.
Stand up as Monaghan.
Good luck.
Cheers. Thanks, boys.